Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, and I'm here today with my co-host, Dr. Heidi Horsley. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, Mom.
And
who's this person in between us?
And with our good friend, Alan Peterson. Alan is the Executive Director of the Compassionate Friends, and we are so happy to have him co-hosting with us today.
Well, I am honored to be here, right between two of my favorite people, doing what we really love to do, and that is sharing really good grief information. And I'm excited about today's show. We have a really good topic, and we're with friends today.
Absolutely. I really feel like it's a good Compassionate Friends group.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about grief. Do you ever get over it? Is that what we call it? No, yeah. Do you ever get over it?
Right.
And the question is the it. What is it?
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because how many times have you had people ask you, do you ever get over it?
And they ask you if you are over it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why aren't you over it?
Exactly. And when are you going to be over it?
Right.
And what is it is what I'm wondering.
You know what I think we're going to learn today in the show, though? I think we're going to learn that it is something different depending on where you are in your journey.
Well, that's true.
And we've certainly, our guests, if I was thinking of all of our years of walking this journey combined, sitting here today is a lot of years and a lot of service, a lot of giving back and helping those in grief, and so I'm excited to meet our guests.
And you're going to close the show in singing, and you've even got a song.
I've got a song, Something You Go Through.
Something you go through, which is going to be great for the
Grief isn't something you get over, it's something you go through.
And then we're also going to show a little clip that we've had made that have a lot of voices of people who have been through grief and how they've dealt with it.
Right.
Just a short 1-minute clip, so that's going to be great. But Heidi, why don't you introduce our fabulous guests today?
Okay, and we know all of our guests very well, so this is really fun because it is like a little reunion. It's like a family reunion. So we are going to speak today with Steve and Stacy Parker, and Steve and Stacy know each other well because they are married. So I serve on the board of directors with the Compassionate Friends, the national board of directors with Steve. So that's wonderful. So he does a lot of service for the Compassionate Friends. And Stacy is also on a board of directors. She is on the board of directors for the Children's Hospice of America Foundation. And she's also a parent advocate with the American why am I not saying that correctly?
American Academy of Pediatrics. There's different sections, so I'm in the hospice and palliative care section of as a family advocate.
Very good. And then we are going to speak with Radha Stern, and we've had her on our show before. And Radha is the author of a wonderful book, and she has it right here. And it is called Grief Prints, A Practical Guide for Supporting a Grieving Person. And she also works in the prisons and works with the Insight Prison Project and the Rehabilitation Program for inmates and with inmates.
So welcome, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Fabulous. Now, let's see. Steve, would you like to tell us a little bit about your daughter?
My daughter, Alyssa, was born...
Alyssa,
yes, was born about 6 hours, 8 hours into her arriving. We found that she had a heart defect, and then shortly thereafter a bowel obstruction, and had surgery on day 2, and had a lot of health concerns. About a year later, we found out that it was connected to Alagille syndrome, which is a rare disorder, and at 2 years, 2 months, she passed away in a kind of a routine procedure, but her little heart wasn't strong enough to go on. So
now,
that was 20 years ago.
Oh, I was just ask Stacy how long that had been. Is that what got you into the work you're doing?
Well, so it's been almost 20 years, and it takes a long time to even be able to speak about it, and even think about going to, give your services for all that you've been through. But for me, it took quite a while, and then I was asked, I think we got involved with Compassionate Friends, and then we were asked to run our local chapter, and then we were asked to co-chair the national conference in 2004 in Hollywood,
and you did
California.
a fabulous job.
It was great.
Terrific job.
It was a great experience. And then from there, it just kind of opened up, and I got asked to be on the board at Cedars and UCLA for pediatric palliative care. They needed a family advocate, and it kind of spiraled into other things.
Wow, that's awesome that you're doing that. And Radha, how about you? Talk a little bit about your son.
So my son, Christopher Robin, was 21 when he was killed by his school roommate. He was shot 4 times because he put dishes in the wrong cabinet. It's really true. I know it sounds bizarre, but it's true. And this March coming up, he will be gone as long as he was here, so 21 years, which is a very odd sensation, actually. At first, I was very wary of it. Now I'm just like, bring it on. Another reason to celebrate.
So Radha, with this prison, you were a real pioneer working with prisoners, and I know, I believe one of the reasons that you worked with them because you wanted to show them the impact that their crimes had on people.
Yeah, most of the times inmates don't have an opportunity to see, a surrogate person that they harmed. So to see a mother, be in front of them and talk about losing her son and how painful it is, really wakes them up. It's a difference between, I did it, and really understanding the consequences of the crime. So it's been very powerful on both sides.
Well, and they were looking into your eyes and working with you, and you were giving back and helping them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were looking at you and you were hostile and angry and they were saying, ugh,
No.
she's a horrible person, because you ended up becoming friends with a lot of these people.
Yeah, and there was a group of 18 men that I first started working with the first time I went
Was
into
that
prison.
scary?
Oh, no, not at all.
Not even
No.
the first time?
No, it wasn't. It was never scary. And now I know that if something happened on the yard, they would be protecting me.
Wow.
But of those 18 men, 15 are free men.
Wow.
I mean, I don't have, constant relationships with them. I keep in touch with some of them on Facebook.
So
but-
were they all murderers? Or?
Yes.
Wow.
But the recidivism rate for murderers is very, very low. It's the short-termers who are in that 70%. Murderers are less than 1%.
Wow. Well,
That's amazing.
it's interesting to know. So let's get to the topic. When do you get over it? Who would like to-
Never.
What? let me ask you all the question, and you can fill that whoever wants to. What is it?
I think it is what people who have not experienced grief want us to get over it, because I think as we have our own, their pain for us, they want us to be over it so that they can get along.
What is it? What would it look like if we were over it?
I don't know. I really don't know, but I think in concept it is something that we all want tangible. I think in our world we realize that we don't have control, because I think obviously in our cases and in a lot of cases, maybe most, we didn't have control over it happening. Therefore, getting over it is maybe a control thing that gains comfort, and I think it's more comfort to the other group rather than our group. I think our comfort is going through it and embracing it and taking it to a real new positive level and sharing it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're making a good point, Steve. I think it's not, we don't have a problem with being in our grief and in our pain and in our grief process, but it's other people. And when they say, when are you going to get over it, what it means is, when are you going to return to normal and act like you used to?
Right.
Yeah.
And go on
And get over the
be-
pain. I think
Yes.
it is the pain.
So I can be comfortable around you.
That's exactly right.
So
Yes.
Stacy, do you think they want you to be who you were before at the same level?
Yes, I do. I think that people get in their comfort zone with, in family situations and friend situations, and grief, and especially the loss of a child, is so extreme that it changes you forever. So I think people want to see the person that they knew before.
So they want maybe for us to get over the way we're behaving now?
Right.
And did people put pressure?
It's like the word closure, right? I
Yeah.
hate that word. Well, I don't
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
really, but I don't like that word
Right.
because, who wants to close the love?
Right.
You carry I carry Chris around right here with me all the time. And there's a ton of people else in there in the 21 years too. So it's like, who wants to close the love?
As our friend Bob Niemeyer always says, a closure is for bank accounts, not love accounts.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to borrow that.
You know, I have a saying I use all the time that people tend to understand grief and loss to the level they have experienced it. And, you know, I think that it changes for us. You know, what it was early on in grief, I did want to get over that unable to even function, to get out of bed. That I did not like. And so get over it, I wanted to get past that. But one thing all of us understand here is, you know, we want to move through it. We want to continue moving through it. And you know what amazes me about this group is the amount of service that you all give. I mean, combined, all of us here give. And so in moving through grief, how important do you think, Radha, service and giving back helps us get through it, not over it?
Well, I certainly feel an obligation. I mean, I was the first person in my circle of friends who had been involved in a murder. So, you know, if somebody knows somebody else, you know, they ask me to help the parents through it. And it's like, there's no question whether I'm going to do it or not. You know, I looked for somebody who had been there before I was to help me. And so if I can, you know, be of service, of course I'm going to do it. But that's how sort of the book was born, you know, to help people. I didn't want to write a story about murder. I wanted a book that helped people get through this. We don't practice for this. There's no roadmap, so you do the best you can. It's you know, Compassionate Friends was a very bright light for me in the beginning. I didn't feel alone, which is, you know, we never walk alone, right? And you know, now I'm on the advisory board for our local chapter, but I don't go to the meetings because I'm in a different place. But do I support the organization? Absolutely. You know, people need to, I'd do whatever.
But by the way, let me say something to you personally that I appreciate. If you'd hold your book up again for a second. First of all, it really is a terrific book, but what a lot of people don't know is how generous you are with that book and how many people you give away copies of that book. So how healing has that been for you to write that book and to be able to see it affect people's lives?
Well, I sort of look at it as one of my gifts to the world because I think that's how I walk. You know, I just sent to the sheriff's office a case of books today for the people in the fire in Oakland, the Oakland fire, the warehouse fire.
Sweet.
And, you know, it's like that, for some reason, that fire really triggered me because there was just so many young people. And, you know, if I can, you know, help those families just a tiny bit. And some of the families that I work with, you know, Stacy Redmond, whose son was killed at Pac Bell Park. She said I was the first person that she met after he died that gave her hope. And if I can give that to somebody, what a blessing, right?
Well, and I'm thinking for all of us, and especially for your situation, you know, when we've had a death, we feel like we've been victimized.
Yeah.
And you had. I mean, we've been victimized. It's very disempowering. And when you turn the grief is like crushing, but when you turn it outwards to service, it's very empowering. And you know, you feel alive and you feel like it's the first step towards healing, I think.
You know, I'm thinking maybe it's moving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Well,
that.
that's wow.
Moving it. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, she topped us on that one. That was pretty good. Well, you know what I think when people watch a group of us and like Steve and Stacy, you know, you're down the road now. And so some people say, well, why would you still want to be involved with grieving people, you know? So what do you get from it today? What keeps you doing the wonderful service on the board and keeps you doing the work that you're doing? Why do you still do it today?
I mean, obviously, the number one reason is Alyssa's memory. And I think one of the misconceptions of the other side who have not experienced our loss is sometimes they don't want to bring up that. They think that that's a bad thing. And I think one of the things I share the most to those who have not lost a child or had that contact is that we always want to talk about our children. We may tear up, you know, in that moment, but it's an honor to to serve and to help people and keep Alyssa's memory alive and in her honor and her power and her strength that she gave us when she was here. And the other thing I just recently kind of evolved into is for my 2 living children, because they lost a sibling they didn't know.
Absolutely.
And she's, and it's to teach and empower them to be better people, which, that's a whole nother show we can do on our wonderful children, but what they've learned and the positive that is given. And that's really, and as a guy, guys tend to, we talked about this briefly, is that guys don't, being in a chapter leader, we get, I don't know what the quantity, the percentages are, but it's
Probably 60 at least.
and our chapter
11%.
is even more so in connecting with the other dads,
70.
Right.
because I ran and hid and tried to bury it. And it wasn't until I did this, and then I could reach out to other
You tried to
fathers.
bury it.
It.
So every now and then, it again. Do you
Which
know how
was
much-
my, and that it was
Bury
my
it.
feelings, and God forbid I should cry, God forbid I should show emotions. I'm a big, strong man,
Yeah.
rub some dirt on it or whatever,
Suck it up and walk
Yeah.
it off.
Well,
Yeah.
what I can honestly tell you that what it is for me today is something that I cherish very much. What it is for me today is I could still be at the mall and I could still see a girl with dark hair with a purple streak in the back of it and look at that, and for a moment, I want to cry, or it just takes me back. I don't ever want to lose that connection. So I think if you process grief, do you guys agree? And you continue to walk through grief and to give and to say their name and tell their story, that eventually it becomes the love. And we will never get over the love. The love, don't care how many years go by, I've never met a bereaved person that I said, do you love them less today than you did? No, we love them just as much, and it now becomes
Sometimes
the power of
more,
that
because
love.
for me as a bereaved sibling, I knew I loved my brother a lot, but I didn't realize the depth of my love until he
Right.
died. And then I went, wow,
Yeah.
I really love him. And I always did. I just took him, I guess I took it for granted when he was here.
So Stacy, I'm thinking about you working with bereaved families and seeing people, and I'm thinking that Stacy is showing them that the it is going to be okay. That you've moved on to the love. I love the idea of it becoming the love, and they're kind of still in it. They're in the anger, depression. Why?
Right.
When? How long does it take? People asking them all those questions, but they see you. And they know they'll live. You remember that early on where you saw
Yes,
somebody and
where
you
you could-
thought, I might live.
Yes, in the beginning when you're barely functioning and you think, I'm never going to get through this. It was good to see the people that were further along, to see that it's not always going to be this painful. That made a huge difference in being able to get through it.
Yeah. And just seeing you in the world moving in those hospital settings, are you actually in the hospital with people?
Yes, not as much anymore, but yes,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, moving
Yeah.
around, and they really see. Because I think we're such exemplifiers. That's a whole other point,
Absolutely.
too. If they can see you up moving around, they think that they can get through. I'm not sure people know exactly what it is early on. Because there's anger, there's depression, trying to get to the love. I love that.
It
being
is
the call of love.
overwhelming at first.
Yeah, the
It's
shock
hard to
too. Shock is huge.
Yeah.
Shock is. I always thought shock was, mostly mental, but it's incredibly physical.
It is. That's the big surprising part. Was that surprising for everybody? How the physical parts of
Yeah.
grief?
Yeah, it's we knew emotionally it was going to hurt, but we didn't know it would physically take us down. Spiritually, it can tear you apart. So it's so many things that it is overwhelming. Yet we all walked through it, and I think that's
Not everyone does.
well.
Sometimes
no.
you
Some
crawl.
people get stuck.
No, we all did, but that's right. Not everybody did, and some people chose not to get out
They
of
kind
bed.
of stay with the it.
They kind of
wonder.
Well, I say that to my clients when they come to my office after a death, and I say, "Wow, it's really amazing you're here today." And they say, "Well, what are the options?" I said, "You could be in a fetal position at home on the
right.
floor.
Right.
There are other places you could be, because it does take so much energy, even to get up and get dressed and to go outside early on."
And it is interesting with compassionate friends,
Yeah.
whether it's a national conference or even a little chapter meeting with a few people, that you do get people that, like myself, put it off. I didn't put it off as long as some people, But you have people coming for the first time 5, 10 years,
Yeah.
20 years into their grief and realizing you really can't escape it. You have to.
You have to go
you
through
have,
it.
You have to deal with it.
Right.
Right.
And coming and having to start your grief process that far along, to me, seems harder than, I was months out and it felt like years. I can only imagine what it would feel like if I was really years out.
I was there in 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
That's
That is.
Amazing.
And I'm sure you look back and say, how did I do that?
Right.
Well, it was really good because I didn't feel alone, but
Yeah.
I was really searching for things that made me feel normal. Like
Yeah.
going to get your nails done. Just something like life was normal because it was so abnormal. And, it's an odd feeling when the whole world is turning. You can all relate to this, and you're so broken.
Yes.
And, how we get back to that, we do. We crawl for a while. We definitely crawl.
I remember initially coming out of the hospital, and it was like a beautiful sunny day, and thinking, don't you people know what just happened?
It needs to be
Yeah.
thunder
Yeah.
and lightning.
Yeah.
I know.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
It is strange.
Yeah.
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 Well, and also too, when you go to a support, we went to a support group because we had a special needs child, and as parents, you go to a support group to help your child.
Right.
And the whole concept of, and we discussed, it's like, no matter what we do in this stupid group you want me to go to, we can't help Alyssa anymore. And then it took a while for the realization that we were no longer helping Alyssa, we were trying to help ourselves.
Right.
And that's, I think obviously that's part of the process, is that understanding that, my personal belief is that she's okay now, even though she had her health concerns and all that stuff. And it was us that we were broken.
Yeah.
And it's not a quick process, and it's very different for everybody. So there's no, you don't get the handbook, grief for dummies or.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about those early stages because it's kind of interesting looking at you as compared with Radha, because Radha got involved with a legal case,
Yeah.
and
we had a
that
trial.
can
Yeah.
really delay the grieving process.
It does, because you have to, you're in fight mode. My son wasn't here to defend himself. That was my job. And, I'm pretty smart, but, you're thrown into the legalese world and you don't really know all of it. Fortunately, I had friends I could call every night and say, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? But it was a 5-week trial. It took us 2 years to get there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember vividly because it was during the BART strike. So not only did we have to drive to Oakland every day, he was killed in Alameda County, but it was during the BART strike. So it was like they were pouring on the misery.
Wow.
And what
Yeah.
happened to this guy that killed your son?
He was sentenced to 19 and a half years to life. That's an indeterminate sentence.
Well, we are now going to go to our video clip that we did, and you're going to hear a lot of voices on this video clip, and Alan starts with it, but you're going to have hear some wonderful voices that are going to say about their take on it, basically, how you deal with it. So thank you for watching this show today, and we want to thank all of our guests for being on the show. And Alan's going to sing for us after the video clip. And Heidi and I want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own. And God bless, and visit us at opentohope.com at thecompassionatefriends.org. Thank you.
You don't need enough hope to get through the day. You don't need enough hope to get through a year. You just need enough hope to get through the next moment.
Even though we had this thing happen to us, it also happened for us.
We hold the memories of those that we cared for, that were a part in the making of our characters. And when they pass, those memories will come back when you need them. They become voices of intuition and of guidance.
We want to be a lifeline for somebody else. We want to inspire others and say, we know what it's like to be where you are, but you're not always going to be there. Just take our hand, believe us. We'll take the journey with you.
When life presents 1,000 reasons to mourn, show life that you have 1,001 reasons to smile.
We get through this one breath at a time. We don't do it a day at a time. That's healing. That's positive, and that's what the world wants to talk about. People die. Love doesn't die.
We always say, if you've lost hope, please lean on ours.
missed it so. I heard a friend say the other day, she just can't get on with her life. She said, I feel stuck and I feel guilty. And I know my husband needs his wife. And I told her, grief isn't something you get over. It's something you go through. It pays no mind to the hands of time. It becomes a part of you. It's living proof love never dies. It leaves these teardrops in our eyes. You don't get over. It's something you go through. I said, friends, you know, it wasn't that long ago I lost the love of my life. That little girl of mine, oh, she was something. I still miss her every day and night. And that's how I learned grief isn't something you get over. It's something you go through. It pays no mind to the hands of time. It becomes a part of you. It's living proof love never dies. It leaves these teardrops in our eyes. You don't get over. It's something you go through. It's finding a gentle place and moving at your own pace. Trust in the love you feel. Pray in your heart is gonna heal. It isn't something you get over. It's something you go through. It pays no mind to the hands of time. It becomes a part of you. It's living proof love never dies. It leaves these teardrops in our eyes.